Good morning, Facebook friends. Thanks for joining me in the greenhouse on this beautiful sunny morning. Today I'm going to chat with you about growing your pansies and some other gardening tips and tricks. Hey there, everybody. It's Sandra here from Huron Ridge and wanted to chat with you about caring for your pansies. And I know a whole lot of you have already been here and got your pansies because we have sold so many. There's hardly any left. It's kind of crazy. Usually we have pansies for another 3 or 4 weeks yet, but it looks to me like they're probably going to all be gone by this weekend or very soon after. So if you want to get pansies, come on out and get them soon because they're running out fast. Anyway, so a couple things about caring for them now that you've got your pansies home. So this is a cute little 8-inch color pot that we have for sale. We also have 6-packs left, which look like that, okay? These are meant for you to plant into other containers. This is optional. You could plant it into another container or into a flower bed if you wanted to, but you could also just set it like that on your porch steps or something like that. So pansies need to be deadheaded. What that means is in order for them to keep blooming, they need to have the dead flowers taken off of them. And it's really very simple. All you need to do is go through. You can wait until they're completely browned off, or you can start pulling them a little earlier. I would probably pick off anything that just doesn't look as good anymore. And all that really does is promote the new blooms to come. But it is important for you to deadhead your pansies if you want to keep them flowering, okay? So that's something that is super important to keep them looking good. Sometimes if they've gotten damaged by that cold wind yesterday, holy doodle, what was up with that wind yesterday? It sounded in here, it was so loud. It sounded like a jet plane was taking off because the plastic flaps in the wind a little bit. And it doesn't, I mean, it was really windy yesterday. It sounded like the whole greenhouse was going to just fly away. Thank goodness it didn't. Everything's in one piece. We're all good here. But it was so loud in here. So cold wind like the one we had yesterday can also damage those flowers. So don't be afraid to pick them up if they get looking a little unsightly. They're going to rebloom. That's the great thing about pansies. But I do want to tell you, I've looked at the forecast for tonight and tomorrow, and it is not favorable, folks. Hate to break it to you, we're headed back to winter for at least a little bit. Looks like 24 to 48 hours of really nasty kind of temperatures. Your pansies, if they're already planted outside, well, if they're not planted, if they're in a bowl like this, bring them in just for a couple days. It'll be fine. If they are planted outside like mine are, all I'm going to do is use either an old towel or an old blanket, and I'm going to cover them up. People often ask, can I cover them with plastic? Not really. Really don't suggest that. Especially, you could put a blanket over and then plastic if you want, but to just put plastic over them really doesn't give them any insulation. So you want to use, like I said, either an old blanket or an old towel. Tuck those babies in and leave them like that until we get back to the nicer temperatures in the coming days. It looks like there's just a little blast of cold air for the next couple days, and then it's going to warm back up again. I think I saw the forecast for Saturday. It looks like sunshine and a really nice day. So just get them through this next period of time. And also, if you've already bought bare root strawberries and planted those, I would do the same. The crowns, again, they're going to survive the cold temperatures, but the new growth that's coming on those strawberries is quite tender. So if you can protect that fresh, new, tender leaves at all, I would do that. Otherwise, it's just going to set them back a bit. Not the end of the world. Like I said, won't kill them, but if you can protect them, I certainly would recommend doing that. Also, if you're joining me this morning, I can see there's a bunch of you watching. Give me a thumbs up or a wave. I'd love to see who's watching and where you're from. If you have any questions, I can answer them in real time because I can see them come up on my computer screen simultaneously, which is kind of cool. The other thing I've had people ask me about pansies is fertilizer. Any kind of flowering fertilizer is going to be fine. I'm a big proponent or fan of Jack's fertilizers. If you've watched me in the past 2 videos, I've talked often about Jack's petunia feed, which is particular to petunias. Would it be fine for these guys if you happen to have some? You can use it on here. This is just a blossom booster. So again, it's going to promote more flowering. You can get similar products in other lines. Miracle Grow, obviously, everybody knows that name. And this is a shaking version. I will tell you time and time again, water soluble is going to give you better results than a shake and feed anytime. It's also more work, so you have to decide if you're willing to put the effort in, but definitely a water soluble is going to be more effective than a shake and feed product. I believe that hands down. Okay, so then you've had your pansies, you've enjoyed them for the spring, you've given them a little fertilizer, they're growing beautifully. What about the summer? Absolutely, you can keep your pansies for the summer. The trick is they don't like being hot. So my pansies, I set them on my porch, which is south facing for the spring. If I were to plant them there and leave them there, they're going to get burnt off. They look long and leggy and just not pretty. So what I actually do with mine is I take them from their containers on the porch. around to the north side of my house where it's predominantly shady and a whole lot cooler, and I plant them there. And they generally do fine through the summer. They really start to rebloom again in the fall once it cools off again. Also, I would recommend if you're going to try to keep them for the whole summer, that you give the greenery a haircut too at some point. It's just going to help promote new growth from the bottom, and just kept them looking good again. Now, when I say a haircut, I don't mean like go from a long haircut to a crew cut. You just give them a little snip, trim the ends, okay? Get rid of the dead ends, if that helps anybody. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in. Great to see you both this morning. So that's pansies. If you have any pansy questions, hit me up. I'd love to answer them. Same thing goes with violas. So these are violas. They're just a smaller version of the same flower, essentially. They're obviously a different variety, but they look very similar. They got those sweet little faces on them. Again, violas are very hardy as well. I would almost argue a little more hardy. Yeah. And if you forget to cover your flowers, don't dismay. I've actually had my violas and pansies get a layer of snow on them, and they looked very sad. And all the blooms got wilted, and I had to trim the blooms off, but they did rebloom. So it's not the end of the world, but definitely do try to protect them if you can the next couple days. Our pansies are grown really cold, so you'll hear people use the term hardening off. We grow our pansies hardened off pretty much the whole time. We seed them in October, transplant them around Christmas time, and then they basically grow in unheated greenhouses most of the winter, or very, very low heat, very minimal. And that's what makes them a really hardy plant from go. And part of the reason why I'm confident in telling you that they're going to be okay with the cold. Okay, so that's my little deal about pansies. Next thing I was going to talk to you about is potatoes, because they seem to be the new toilet paper, seed potatoes. Yeah, this is the first time ever we've had to limit how many potatoes people can buy. So we're limiting it to 10 pounds per person, quite simply because I've had a few people call and want to order hundreds of pounds of seed potatoes. And if I said yes to them, then nobody else would get any. And I want to try to share the wealth. So we're going to limit your potato purchase to 10 pounds. That grows a lot of potatoes, okay, folks? So these are both seed potatoes, same kind, out of the same bucket. So some people only want to buy this potato because this potato is too big in their mind. But I'm going to just change my camera and show you something here, okay? I just got to go to here, I think. Okay, so these are my potatoes. So potatoes can be cut up when they're planted. So as long as they have an eye, and an eye looks like, see this little green part here that's growing? I'm just trying to find one that'll show up well for the camera. It's kind of bright in here this morning. But you see that part that's growing there, and then there's some more here that are growing, and then there's going to be some on this end that are growing. Anything with an eye will grow, okay? So as long as it has an eye, you can cut this potato at least into two, probably into three. I would plant this one whole just because it's so small, but anytime that you want to have more potatoes, you can take a big potato like this and cut it up. So you don't have to just buy small seed potatoes, okay? Potatoes can be planted when the soil temperature warms up. If you put them in the ground now, the ground is simply too cold, and they're probably going to rot instead of germinate and grow for you. So I would definitely recommend that you wait to put them in the ground. Think about it. You want to have the soil temperature more like 6 degrees approximately. Be comfortable walking in that soil, and your bare feet is a decent guideline. I've heard lots of different versions of that story. I'm sure some of you probably know them, but we'll just stick with bare feet. And the other thing you can do, if you want to get started growing some potatoes sooner, you could try growing them in a container garden. So we did this last year. We actually made little kits for kids at March break last year. March break didn't happen the same way this year, so we didn't do any March break kits, but these are called root pouches. This is a product that we sell here, and it's actually made out of recycled water bottles, and you can use it to grow produce. Well, you can use it to grow anything, but a lot of people are using it for container gardening. This is, we've got many sizes, so we've got small ones, and then we've got really big ones that you could grow multiple things in, kind of like a raised bed idea. But anyway, so this root pouch, what I would recommend you do is you put about this, probably about a quarter of the soil in, put your potatoes in, and then cover your potato, but only make your root pouch about half full. Once your potato starts growing and you have some greenery coming up through the soil, then you need to add more soil to the container. And you need to keep doing that basically till your container is full, which essentially is emulating hilling your potatoes outside in your garden. So it's important to hill potatoes. And what that means is once they start growing in the garden, obviously you just dig a little trench, put your potato in, cover it up. But once it starts growing, you have to pile earth on top of it. If you don't do that, you're going to end up growing potatoes that aren't very desirable to eat because they're going to be green in color. Sunshine makes potatoes go green. Of course, you know that from buying them at the grocery store. You got to store them somewhere dark. Same thing goes when they're growing in the garden. They have to be covered with earth. So that either means hilling them, or if you're growing them in a container, to keep covering them up. So you don't want to obviously fill this container with soil and then put your potato near the top, or you have nothing, no room to hill it. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? Hope so. Just give me a second here. And the other thing I was going to tell you is potatoes only produce produce one time. So if you think about growing peas or beans or tomatoes or pretty much any other crop like that, you pick the beans, they grow more beans. You pick the peas, they grow more peas. Yeah, to an extent anyways. You pick the zucchini, it grows more zucchini. But you cannot do that with potatoes. Once it produces potatoes, if you dig them up or take them out of the container, it's not going to make more potatoes. That's kind of it. And yes, Lynn, I am suggesting that you cover the green leaves. You probably want to leave a little bit of the green showing, but you want to cover the majority of the green leaves. So yeah, usually, well, potatoes grow pretty quick. So I would say if your potato plant is that tall, you're going to cover like the top or the bottom 2/3. Leave that top little bit sticking out. You don't want to completely cover the leaves, but pretty darn close, okay? Thank you for that, Lynn. That's good clarification. So where was I? Hilling, talking about hilling. Okay, so in this container, I would probably put 1 or 2 pieces of potato. I know what I was going with. So I'm sure you've seen it, the ads on Facebook or wherever with the potato growing containers that you can open the little door and dig out some potatoes and then shut the little door. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of gimmicky, kind of fun. But I just want you to realize that once you open the little door and you take out some potatoes, there's no more potatoes that are going to grow there. That's it. The potatoes are done. Because you don't really harvest a potato until the end of its life cycle. So you plant the potato, it grows green, it's going to blossom. Potato blossoms actually smell really cool. If you've ever driven south of Grand Bend through the countryside when the potato fields are in blossom, they smell really, really nice. So it's going to blossom, it's going to have flowers, and then eventually the potato plant is going to start to die. And that's when you know you can start harvesting. There's absolutely no point in harvesting a potato that hasn't blossomed. Once it's blossomed, you can start digging out those little potatoes. So those are the new potatoes. Somebody asked me the other day, which kind of potatoes grow new potatoes? Like, well, they all grow new potatoes because a new potato is just a potato that's dug when it's still a small potato. Make sense? There's not a specific variety that grows those little potatoes. I'm sure some varieties tend to produce smaller fruit and some tend to produce larger, but there's no special variety for growing those. You just dig them when they're little. So I grow potatoes quite simply because I love to dig fresh potatoes for dinner in the summer months. I don't grow enough potatoes to put away in my basement because I can buy potatoes at the grocery store. I don't bother with that. But I do grow them so that I can dig them in the summer months and just enjoy those lovely little round potatoes. They're so yummy. But yeah, so they only give you fruit once. I hope that makes sense for everybody. If you have any other questions, by all means, hit me up. I am going to show you Leanne's pictures from last summer because Leanne grew potatoes in a root pouch like this. And let me just flip over here 1 second. Okay, there she is. So Leanne had this root pouch, and she actually had dug around in the soil to pull that potato out, as you see in the left-hand picture. Amanda, I'll get there in 1 second. And then you can see she planted it in March, and I think those pictures were taken in June. So if you want to plant your potatoes now in a container, you certainly could harvest some a little sooner, but that's what she had growing in her root pouch, and it was just a really fun little experiment that she did, and the potatoes were quite lovely. So Amanda, going back a little bit, in order to plant your potatoes, if you're planting them in a container, you need to just put a bit of soil in the bottom, put your potato in, cover it up a little bit, and as it grows green, you keep adding more soil so that you've almost covered the green plant until you get your container full of soil. If you're planting it in the garden, you really I usually do a trench because I've got a hole, but if you wanted to use a shovel, you could just dig a hole. I would say put it in probably 6 inches or so in the ground. And then once it starts to grow up through the soil, again, you need to hill your potatoes because if you don't hill them, they're going to be green as they're growing. And nobody wants to eat a green potato. I don't know if any of your kids watched Arthur. If you watched Arthur as a kid and the whole green potato chip saga, that's where they come from. No green potatoes. So anyway, that's my deal about potatoes. So you don't have to plant the whole potato. Again, you can cut it up if you need to. If you get a big potato like this, either one of these is going to grow. As long as it has an eye on it, and an eye is going to start to show you like a little bit of green growth in the divots, okay? And oh, I know what else I was going to tell you. There was one more thing. Oh, somebody else asked me if they have potatoes from the grocery store that have sprouted, if they can. Oh my goodness, my watch is going crazy. Um, if you have potatoes from the grocery store that have sprouted, can you plant them? Yes, you can. Potatoes are potatoes. Some potatoes that you get at the grocery store will sprout, and those you can grow new potatoes with. But if you want to come here and get seed potatoes, we have those as well, because they will definitely grow. They have been grown for the specific purpose of using as seed. Okie dokie. So, potatoes. I think that's probably pretty good. The other thing I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about is things you can be planting now as far as indoor seeding and outdoor seeding. I've gone over it before, but I'll just remind you, we do have a vegetable planting guide. Oh, it's really bright, sorry. There you can see it a little bit. We do have a vegetable planting guide on our website that you can download and print off if you want. It is under the gardening info tab. There's an info tab at the top, and then it says gardening guide or gardening info, and it's there for you. Basically, in summary, if you have not yet planted your tomatoes or peppers, I'm going to switch the angle here so you can see what I've got a little bit better. These are some I pulled off the rack that I thought were kind of cool. So purple peppers, these were bumblebee peppers, or sorry, tomatoes, and brandywine tomatoes. This has been a favorite at our tomato tasting events that we used to do. Brandywine is really popular. Just if you haven't planted these yet, do it now. You're running out of time. You want to get your tomatoes and peppers seeded. If you're planning to grow your own, get on it. It's time, and I think we've sown the last of our tomato and pepper seeds we did just this week. So now's the time, folks. If you haven't done it yet, get going. If you want to seed something outside, again, you can go with, this is kind of cool, Swiss chard, if you like Swiss chard. And I found this kind of romaine lettuce. Isn't that cool looking? It's called Freckles. Lettuce, Swiss chard, radishes. What else would I be planting outside right now? Peas, onions. If you want to grow green onions or multiplier onions, you can certainly put those in the ground. Other than that, don't put anything outside yet. I have to take a video at home sometime and show you. I have a raised flower bed that my husband built like a little greenhouse box over it, which is kind of handy because it lets that stuff grow a little quicker. We are going to have raised beds for sale here again. We're waiting for the soil to come in. Would you believe it's hard to get soil this year? So we have some of our soil in stock and we're waiting for more. Hopefully we'll get it this week. Fingers crossed. If not, it's going to be a couple more weeks and then we'll have our raised bed kits available for sale so that you can plant a raised bed if you want. A couple of the things that you can plant soon, but not yet. Okay, so in 2 weeks' time, you can start planting some of these squash crops. This one I thought was really cool. It's a spaghetti squash. So it's called spaghetti squash, and the variety is called Small Wonder. It's been bred to have more beta carotene than other squashes, and it grows to around 2 pounds, which is a nice size, not huge. The fruits have bright yellow flesh under a yellow rind and store particularly well for the winter meals. So that's a selling point for me. I'm definitely going to grow these this summer. And these, I'm going to show you this up close because I just think they're so darn pretty. I've never grown those before. They're a kind of, I believe they're like a zucchini type squash. So they're little, like that's not big at all. And you eat them kind of the same way you would eat a zucchini. So that's also kind of fun. But again, you want to wait to plant those till I want to say 2 weeks. Anyways, don't wait till at least like the 15th of April, okay? Otherwise, the problem is going to be they're going to get humongous in your house and you're going to have vines growing everywhere because vines grow really fast. And I would wait to plant these outside, but I also wanted to point these out because they're just kind of cool, and they're a pumpkin that we have, and the name is in French. Of course, I picked a French name that I absolutely can't pronounce. Galux Diazine. I don't. French is not my strong point, so I'm just going to show you real here, quick right here. Hold on, I got to change my camera. Oh, it doesn't want to change. It's always good when technology cooperates. There we go. That's what it looks like. And it grows like these warty looking pumpkins. And then what does it say about it? They've got a lot of, it says they've got a rind in grayish salmon pink, covered with peanut-like warts, and the interior flesh is vibrant orange and tasty with the smoothest texture of any pumpkin. So if you want to make pies, maybe this is what you want to plant. And again, I would wait to plant these. Honestly, I've never planted a pumpkin and transplanted it. I just always, oh, sorry. Hey, there's Leanne. I always just plant them, direct seed them into my garden. Other things that I would direct seed and not bother seeding in the house ahead of time are beans, beets, carrots. Seed all that stuff directly into your garden, folks. Just do yourself a favor, okay? And again, you can get that gardening guide on our website. So if you have any questions there, hit me up. Last thing I want to show you before I call it a day is my microgreens because I'm so happy with them. So hold on a second. I planted them on my live video a couple weeks ago, so I've already eaten all these ones. But check this action out. Those are my pea sprouts, and they taste so good. It's just like eating snow peas, really. They're so tender, and every day at lunchtime, I just cut them off, give them a little haircut, put them in my salad. This is from a couple weeks. This is the first one I planted, so I've actually harvested this tray like 2 or 3 times. I just keep cutting them off, and they keep regrowing. They're really needing water. But I think I've just about gotten to the point now where I'm going to toss this one out, start over, and just eat this one for a couple weeks until I start the whole process over again. So yeah, we have microgreens and sprouts available. If you want to get growing something indoors now, these are super fun. I can see that little kids would have great fun with this, and it'd be a way to get them to eat something green because they taste like peas. Really, really tasty. Anyway, like I said, if you have any questions, hit me up. Would love to hear from you. And other than that, we hope you have a great Easter weekend. We are closed on Friday for Good Friday. And then we're open on Saturday from 10 to 4. So have a great day, folks, and we'll catch you soon. Bye.